Welcome to the Wallflower Wellness Podcast. I'm your host, Erica, and I teach people how to heal their nervous system through reflex integration and trauma-informed approaches to movement. On this podcast, we explore what the holistic healing journey can look like for a Christian, bringing everything back to the truth of Scripture. Because healing shouldn't come with spiritual confusion. It should bring you closer to the God who designed your body to heal. Welcome back, everyone, to the Wallflower Wellness Podcast. I'm Erica. Thank you so much for joining me. And today I'm extra excited about our episode because this will be my first episode where it's not just me talking. And I actually have someone here with me joining to have a fun chat about sound healing. So, Karen, thank you so much for joining. How are you today?
Hi, thank you, Erica. Thank you so much I'm excited to be your first kind of interview situation. So
Yeah.
I'm fine. Thank you so much. How are you today?
I'm doing great. Super excited to have you on.
I am too. Thank you.
Yeah. And so before we jump into all of our awesome questions, content, and everything, I just have a quick note for all of our listeners. Before we dive in, just a quick disclaimer that this episode is just for exploring and learning, and it's not medical or mental health advice. So we're going to be talking about stress, trauma, general well-being, and while sound healing practices can be a really nice complement to good care, they're not a substitute for it. So if you are carrying something heavy, whether it's mental health or a physical condition, please don't navigate that alone. Talk to a doctor, a counselor, or someone else who's qualified to walk with you. Okay, so let's get into it. So like I said, we've got Karen here, and she is a wife, mother, grandmother, and also a vibrational raindrop practitioner, which I think
Mhm.
she will unpack for us in a little bit. So Karen, tell me a little bit about just your background and how you started on this journey.
Well, honestly, I truly, I kind of stumbled backwards into pretty much all of it.
Okay.
And I like to think that I was kind of divinely led through everything, to be very honest with you. But
Sure.
I've always been more of a health and wellness interested type of person, even when I was young, starting like 18 years old, even, way back a long time ago. I've always been interested in how can we better serve our body
Mm-hmm.
and our life and our well-being. So I've always tried to eat well and exercise, all of that kind of stuff.
Mm-hmm.
But going into, I think it was around 2014, I started getting interested in essential oils and started researching different companies. And by the time I think it was 2015, I actually decided to dive into a specific company. It's the company I still use now. All essential oil companies are not created equal. So this is a great company. They don't play with their oils. They take the plant material, they bottle it and they sell it. They don't add stuff or
Mm-hmm.
like fractionate it. So it's really good, clean, therapeutic oil. So I started using these essential oils. And because of that, years later, I was at a convention that this company was hosting. And it was this huge convention center. And through the day, every hour, you could choose which teaching room or classroom you went into. And one of them said raindrop. And I had never heard of that, had no idea what it was. I'm like, sure, something new to me, sign me up.
Mm-hmm.
And I walked in to this classroom to find a live demo of a person on a table, on a massage table, receiving raindrop, what's called raindrop technique.
Mm-hmm.
And knowing the therapeutic benefits and the energetic benefits of essential oils and the properties and constituents of the oils themselves from the plants that we've been given,
Mm-hmm.
I was intrigued. I said, I don't know, I've never seen this before, but sign me up. And sure enough, at the end, she sent around a sign up sheet, two of them. One was, would you like to receive a raindrop? And the other one was, would you like to learn to be a practitioner?
Mm-hmm.
So I jumped right in. And so that was back in 19 when I started my couple years long journey of learning raindrop technique.
Okay.
And then skip forward to 2022, that same person who was in that classroom became my mentor all along. And she reached out to me and she said, there's a physician, Dr. Christy Bonds Garrett, MD. She's down in Kentucky. She has a thriving practice, but she's created this vibrational iteration of raindrop. So raindrop basically is it's the application of essential oils, kind of essential oils meets reflexology and acupuncture points. That's
Mhm.
kind of what the basis of raindrop is. So
Okay.
you do these certain motions, Vitaflex it's called, on the feet, and then you work on the client's spine. So she said, this doctor has created this vibrational iteration of that using tuning forks. And there's all of these classes that are going on down in Kentucky. And do you want to go? And you know, part of it is, I mean, for me, part of it is like FOMO. Like I,
Yeah.
I have to learn that. So I signed up, and a few of us went down to Kentucky, and I didn't even, honestly, being very honest, I had no idea what I was getting into, even when I started with Raindrop. And then this in Kentucky, I didn't know it was getting me into sound and frequency. I just didn't really understand that as a whole, but certainly learned it very quickly, and I've never looked back. That's kind of like the quick version of how I just stumbled one step after the next into the world that I am very immersed in now.
Okay. Okay, so just I wanna make sure I'm understanding, like, all the details of this right, because I'm am a client of yours. I've
Yeah.
experienced this a couple times, so I'm a little familiar with it, but when I first heard about it, it was so off my grid, it took me a minute to
Yeah.
understand.
Yeah.
So the raindrop is, like, specifically just the essential oils, feet, and the spine, and
Right.
you're working with you said acupressure points?
So acupuncture points throughout the
Acupressure.
body.
Okay.
In fact, I know you're familiar with even i- the vibrational offering of the auricular option, because
Mhm,
if you look at the ear, if you look at a person's ear, or you take a picture of an ear and you turn it
mhm.
upside down, it actually looks like a fetus
Oh,
curled up in the womb. It literally looks like that.
oh,
And if you learn about the acupuncture points of the ear, there's more acupuncture points on the ear than anywhere on the body. It's very
uh-huh,
concentrated. So we can, it's because of this doctor and this whole science and all these different modalities that she kind of drew together to create the vibrational part of it. So
mhm,
the original raindrop never had the tuning forks. Oils themselves have their own frequency, right?
mhm,
Because they're from plants. So all of these things, everything has a frequency.
right.
So they definitely do bring frequency to the party. But
Yeah,
then when you bring in the tuning forks and now you're on all these additional acupuncture points
mhm,
in the body. So so now you're kind of bringing in even like traditional Chinese medicine into
okay,
the picture. So it's these different modalities. It's acupuncture, traditional Chinese medicine, raindrop, the Vitaflex hand motions, the right. So
mhm,
there's like really Dr. Christy Bonds Garrett, the one in Kentucky,
mhm,
took all of these modalities and brought them into what is now known as vibrational. But to your point about it not being on your radar, it's not a well-known
mhm,
modality,
mhm,
and then when you take that step further into what, my level of the, vibrational, I'm one of only a couple people in Michigan that are, are taught and have gone through the classes and have the full certification
mhm,
to do that what I do. So it's, I mean, in Michigan, there's only literally a few of us.
mhm.
I mean, I myself, I have to drive almost an hour to get to the closest one to me.
Oh,
So
okay.
so it's not well known here in Michigan for sure. But
Yeah.
it's used all over. I mean, even my one of the instructors, the primary instructor for vibrational, she travels all over the place. She was just in Lithuania
Oh, wow.
uh, for like the fifth time because it's very popular there.
Mhm.
So yeah, it's just not caught on quite as much in our country.
Yeah. Well, I'm sure as soon as word starts to spread, it's just such it's something that people don't encounter all the time, but at least for
Mhm.
me, when I experienced it, I had no idea what I was walking into.
Right.
Eh, but then it made such a difference for me.
I
And
love that.
yeah, and so I was like, "Oh my goodness." And, so I have to imagine, like, I'm sure once it reaches an area, it just spreads more quickly.
I do, and I encourage people, and sometimes it's. I tell people it's a leap of faith. I think so many
Yeah.
things in our world and in our life are leaps of faith because it's easy for us to stay on that well-worn path of
Mhm.
life, and sometimes stepping off that path feels odd and a little uncomfortable, but the leap of faith, and I just tell people, take the leap of faith, come and see me. You find out yourself, come and see me, I'll take great care of you, and then decide for yourself, see how you feel.
Yeah. Well, I shared this on a previous episode, but, like, my experience was that, like, meeting you just put me so much at ease. Because when you're looking for someone who's actually gonna work on you hands-on, you just wanna be
Yes.
so careful and
Yes.
ideally be with someone who's a believer, who, like, follows Jesus and
Yes.
carries the
So
same
important.
beliefs as you, and so
Yes.
just being comfortable with you was the first step and having that trust, and then it was really just kind of a random thought when I was in prayer that I should reach out to you that happened months later, and before I
Love
came
that.
to you, I had this, like, nasty, just like a knot on in my neck that wouldn't budge, and after going through the tuning forks and the raindrop, everything melted away, and so I just thought, "Okay, there's something going on. I just have no idea what it is."
It
And
is incredible. I had a client just yesterday that was asking me, "Well, I wish I had come to you." She's new,
mhm,
and she was very happy with her session. And she said, "Oh, I wish I had come to you a couple months ago. I had the worst pain in my shoulder, da 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 da." And so I really kind of had to um, step into like a different place with her to help her understand. You go to a doctor or whomever and you say, I have a pain in my shoulder,
mhm,
fix the pain in my shoulder. And then whether you're at like physical therapy or a doctor or getting an injection or whatever,
mhm.
they're working on the shoulder, right?
Yeah,
As opposed to what I do, because I'm not, I make the same claims that you. Thank you for making that claim at the beginning of this recording that, we're not diagnosing and, you
mhm,
know, not, suggesting that I'm the healer
sure,
because there's only one healer, and whether or not somebody heals is between them and the Lord.
yeah,
And the tools that I use are just kind of that helps the body to kind of rise to um its best expression of itself,
okay,
or it
yeah,
receiving what it needs through these different oils or the tuning forks or whatnot, so that your pain in your neck, 'cause I do have a lot of people that will tell me, like, or I'll have people call me and they'll say, so and so referred me because you fixed their pain, whatever that pain, their back pain, their neck pain.
uh-huh,
And so I kind of have to have this conversation because the healing is up to the body,
mhm,
and just being exposed to the right tools. I'm not healing anybody, right?
yeah.
You're healing, your body's healing, the Lord is healing you. It's just bringing those tools into the equation, if that
Yeah.
makes sense.
Oh, yeah, which is why I just think your perspective is so perfect for this podcast because you're a believer and yeah, I think you have good discernment and you're in this space that is generally taken over by people that are not believers. But
Very much.
we have this gift from God in sound, And so I love your example of using that appropriately as a Christian and
Hmm.
knowing where the line is, where you draw that line when it comes to what other
Yeah,
people might bring into that, because you
it's important.
see things get strange. Yeah. So, okay, can you talk a little bit more about the science? Because you hit on a couple different things like Vitaflex, that's a new term for me. Um, and just talk a little bit more about the science of vibration and how that benefits the body and what you learned like kind of early in your years when you
Okay,
were first exposed to sound healing.
sure. So, well, Vitaflex, to address that,
Yeah.
Vitaflex is just the name of a hand motion. It's
Mhm.
called, it's the definition of it is vitality through the reflexes. It's encouraging
Okay.
vitality of the body through the reflexes of the body. So it's this rolling motion that the practitioner does with their hand on
Mhm.
whether it's with my entire hand on your foot or if it's with a single finger. It's this particular rolling motion.
Uh-huh.
And it's, I might mispronounce the word, it's piezoelectricity.
Okay.
So what that is, it's when we're in contact with the body with the pad of our finger and we roll up, we're actually creating an electrical current. So if you think about
Oh.
if I'm working on your foot, if we think about the world of reflexology, so we're
Mhm.
bringing that other little world into this. So if this is the foot and the heel and the big toe, the there's in reflexology, there's a representation of the spine there, right? So
Okay.
down at the base of like the heel of the foot is where the sacrum is. And way up at the top of the big toe, and this is true for the hand as well,
Uh-huh.
but at the top of the thumb or at the top of the big toe, that's where the brain is. So it's the full representation of the spine and then the brain.
Mhm.
So when I'm on the foot doing this rolling motion, I'm actually creating an electrical current. And then when come over to my nails, I'm snapping that current off and then recreating one and snapping, recreating. And it's this rolling motion. So I'm creating a current that's working up the meridians of your body. So
Uh-huh.
it's creating this current, which is the vehicle through which that energy or frequency or oil that I'm working with,
Mhm.
that's the vehicle that that's kind of that's the Uber driver that's sending it, right? So that's Vitaflex. Um, so if I share with you, I'll share with you about when I started in the class because everything that I do, I've been on this journey of really trying to make sure that everything I do goes through these gates that I have um, instituted for myself.
Uh-huh.
And those gates are, is it for him? Is it through him? Is it of him? Is it pleasing to him? So
Mhm.
I try to put everything through that funnel or those gates, right?
Yeah.
So here I find myself, as I said, in Kentucky at a class that I really just don't even know what I'm getting into, but I'm like,
Mhm.
yep, sign me up. And off we went.
Uh-huh.
So, first or second day she's talking about, I have my fork sitting next to me. And let me see if I have the right one here. I don't. Oh, no, I do. She's got this fork in her hand, right? She
Okay.
doesn't have a tip on it, a gem tip. It's just this fork. And it's called Om, O-M.
Mhm.
So instantly I'm connecting it to my yoga history, which I don't embrace any longer.
Mhm.
So I'm I'm already put off just a tiny bit because and I don't embrace my yoga. I actually used to teach yoga and discontinued teaching yoga because it did not align with those gates,
Yeah. Mhm.
right? Through my assessment. And, for anyone
Yeah.
that does yoga or enjoys yoga, I'm the most non-judgmental person you're going to meet. I certainly try to be as non-judgmental as I possibly can always in my life. That's a big
Yeah.
deal. So if somebody, one of your listeners does yoga, I have no judgment, right? But
Yeah.
for me, I stopped teaching because it didn't pass properly through those gates. So here I am, I'm in Kentucky. They're talking about this fork. It says Om on it.
Mhm.
And she starts talking about how Om is it's the uh it's 136.1 hertz,
Okay.
which is the vibrational, mathematical vibrational equation that of the earth. And before I'm even like listening, I was already getting like weirded out, and so I kind of like raised my hand in the back of
Uh-huh.
the class, and the instructor addresses me, and I said, I'm so sorry. I said, I don't mean to be disruptive, but I'm not really sure I belong here. I'm not comfortable. And she said, "What's wrong? Let's address it." And I said, "Well,
Yeah.
I'm a Christian."
Uh-huh.
And for me, that was kind of a bold move, to be honest with you. I've become more bold in my Christianity. I used to be like like hide in the corner, not literally, but kind of. I don't want to be bold about it. I
Yeah.
don't want to ruffle any feathers. But I realize that's what I'm here for, not to
Mhm.
ruffle feathers, but to be bold about who I am and
Yeah.
who, you know what I mean? I'm the hands and feet of Jesus here. So I'm
Mhm.
not going to pretend. I'm not going to put that under a blanket. So I
Right.
said, I just am not sure I'm in the place that I should be in. I'm a Christian. And
Mhm.
she kind of looked at me a little quizzically, and she said, okay. And I said, well, I mean, you're talking about the earth, and she also had gone on. She started talking about like Saturn and Venus, and
Oh, yeah.
right. And I said, that's not of Christianity. And she was so kind and so wonderful and so loving. She said, let me help you understand, because I
Mhm.
think you are exactly where you belong. She
Mhm.
said, you're confusing astrology like horoscopes. And hi, I'm born in July, so I'm a Leo.
Right. Uh-huh.
She said, you're confusing astrology, which is not what this is, with
Uh-huh.
astronomy, which
Uh.
is the scientific study of planets, of
Mhm.
God's creation.
Mhm.
I was like, okay, tell me more, right? So
Yeah.
I, I stayed in the class. She went on to explain about the science, deeper into the science. Um, there's a mathematician, he's a mathematician and a music researcher. His name is Hans Cousteau,
Okay.
and he is who assigned that number, that the frequency to the entire, what they call planetary. I have a bunch of forks in the primary set. It's called the planetary set.
Mhm.
And, one says sun on it, one says Venus, one says Pluto, Earth, right? That is all the planetary, it's all of God's celestial beings, right?
Mhm.
So Hans Cousteau, he took the started with Earth, and he took the Earth's orbital frequency, and he took that, and then he repeatedly doubled it
Mhm.
by octaves
Okay.
until it came into an audible range. Once it hit an audible range, that was the number he assigned, 136.1 hertz.
Mhm.
And he repeated that process of the doubling by octaves the original frequency of whatever planet
Mhm.
until it came into audible range and assigned those frequencies. So I know this is it's like a lot of science, but that's the root system of
Okay.
why, like, all these different, like if you compare these forks, you can see what a difference in size they are. It's
Yeah.
very different frequency in the different forks. So
Mhm.
basically, the frequency of any fork is the audible expression of that planet's frequency. It's the mathematical equation that brings about an audible expression.
Yeah.
So all of that information and science from Hans Kusto, coupled with the original raindrop, which is just the hand movements and oils,
Mhm.
coupled with reflexology, acupuncture points, um, all of that. This doctor in Kentucky created the vibrational, you know, put all of that information into a tuning fork.
Got it.
And
Okay.
so not only the frequency, but then where are these acupuncture points? How do we apply it? When do we apply it? What's the order? So she combined the original raindrop with all of that information and created vibrational raindrop. I know that's a lot, but that's the science, and it's cool because it's with sound
Yeah.
it's about sound, even if you can't hear it, right? There's a lot of
Mhm.
sound that we don't, as humans, we don't hear,
Right.
but frequency is sound.
Right.
So and
Yeah.
then, of course, we know science goes on to talk about how sound alone has positive influence on our pain perception,
Mhm.
our nervous system regulation, our heart rate variability,
Yeah.
just overall, sense of wellness, sleeping better, like all of it.
Yeah. No, everything you're saying, is tracking. I know you say it's a lot, but I think the people who are interested in this kind of stuff are absolutely tracking with you. Because I
Good.
just finished a book, about a doctor, an oncologist who started using the sound bowls. So not forks, but the bowls with his
I
pain.
have one behind me, yes.
Okay, yeah, and he wasn't using it to replace traditional medicine, but he
That's
would use it to help people handle the emotional burden of cancer and treatment.
such a big deal.
Yeah,
Oh my gosh.
and it was really interesting reading this book because he had lots of anecdotes. Obviously, I there's not, like, good studies specifically on sound healing and cancer, but he kind of laid out how like his method and how he used it. And it was interesting because you can see obviously there's something really amazing happening when you have just such a deep, rich, pure sound. And I know the
Yes.
bowls will have different frequencies. But
Mhm.
then he would also bring in like chanting and have people chant through it. And it's just as a Christian and kind of like how you had your own alarm bells going off.
Mhm.
You're entering these spaces. It's so important to have razor sharp discernment
Yes.
as far
Yes.
as like how can we use God's creation and at what point are you stepping into just like a part of things spiritually that just end up becoming not profitable and even a
Right.
little dangerous spiritually.
I
Yeah.
so agree. I
Yeah.
was in this situation the other night personally
Mhm.
and didn't realize that was what I was stepping into until I was at an hour and a half session. It was a sound healing session.
Mhm.
And it wasn't until we were about a little more than halfway in that some chanting started.
Okay.
And I, uh, I, I used to do this during yoga, like at the end of yoga.
Mhm.
Um, it actually is kind of funny. When I started teaching yoga, my very first class, I'm gonna jump stories here, but my
Yeah.
very first class, at the end, they say namaste, right?
Mhm. Yeah.
And when it came to that moment, I couldn't say it in front
Wow.
of a classroom of people. I could not get the word I couldn't even get it in my head to get it out of my
Mhm.
mouth. I was
Okay.
100% blank. And there was this ridiculously long pause. And one of the students right in front of me said, Namaste? Like, and I said, oh, yes, yes.
Wow. Yeah.
And after I stopped teaching, I still attended a few classes here and there as
Mhm.
a student,
Yeah.
and when the class says namaste, I say in Jesus' name. I
Mhm,
use it as an opportunity for prayer to God, big G, God.
mhm.
And so it is strange when you find yourself in that, and that's what I found the other night because the chanting was to like a Hindu
Yeah,
little G God, and I was like, whoa! So I literally, and I'm not exaggerating, I said the Our Father probably about 30 times during all of that chanting. Just repeated the Our Father over and over and over again.
yeah, and I think in situations like that, like, there's a lot of grace and protection that God has, especially if it's something that you're walking into, and
Hmm.
that's not what you were signing up for.
Right.
Yeah,
Right, and he knows our heart, and that's why there's so much grace extended to us. He knows we're just simple humans, and
yeah,
he knows that, but
well,
our
because
heart is what truly matters.
yeah, because my background was teaching yoga as well, and and I remember having that same problem coming to the end of the class, and I was like, "Thanks everyone for coming." Like,
Right. Oh
I
my gosh, that's so amazing.
I
We had
couldn't
the same.
I really didn't, and I never I practiced for 13 years in total, and even in classes, I when we get to the end, I would never say that, or every once in a while, I would find myself in a class where they would actually the teacher would want you to say certain chants, and that was my line. Granted,
Right,
now I don't do yoga at all, like, that's my
right,
line, and that's how I, like, honor God in that, and I don't think personally, I think it's wise for Christians to do that. But,
right.
like, at the time, I was like, hard pass on the chanting." But it's interesting with the Om because that I've read a lot about that being, like, the vowels of it and the frequency of it is, like, a complete resonance that's supposed to match I don't have this fresh in my
Yeah.
brain, but I understand the science of why Om
That's the
like
thing.
this. Yeah,
That's
but
why I got, comfortable with it, and I can even understand that bridge to the word
yeah.
Om. And,
Mhm.
even when and I'm not going to sit and chant Om, I'm not going to
Yeah,
do that.
right,
But it's the word associated with the sound, which is associated with the frequency, which has a base on the Earth's frequency.
right.
The Earth being our, um, like, home base, our right, our I don't have the right word for it, but our
Foundation?
fundamental. That's the
Sure.
word. It's our fundamental.
Okay.
That in fact, the Om fork is the fundamental of all the entire fork systems that I have.
Yeah.
And that's the fundamental, meaning everything branches up and out as far as the frequency and tones of the other forks. So from that perspective and, through that path, I can understand it. And I also get other people have other applications for it. I'm not blind to that
Mhm.
understanding, but I can also be very confident in my own discernment for what I am using it for.
Yeah.
It right? I
Yeah.
mean, even when we think about my discernment about what I use these things for, like everything, every single, they're right next to me. Every single thing that comes in to this room, it goes through this gate. I've got several bottles of holy water that just sit over there because I never know where do things come from before they come here into this space, right? So, for example, like I've got like a bunch of little palm stones,
Mhm.
right? And even though when I buy them, I'm buying them new, I also don't know whose hands did they pass through
Yeah.
and maybe the energy of that person, or was it is it not new and was it used by somebody for non-Christian purposes? Because that's like you were saying, like this is one of the things that a lot of people are like, I don't know about stones, right?
Mhm.
Like crystals and stones. But when you think about, so first of all, when I get these in this room, I pray over everything that comes in this room. And when I'm praying over everything, I literally give it a cleanse with holy water. And I never want there to be any mistake about the intention of this room and or the intention of like these like this is another like um it's just a stone. It's a rose quartz. So
Mhm.
people certainly these stones are also used for any kind of stone or crystal can be used for purposes that are not of God. And
Yeah.
I think that's where, like we were saying earlier, where people aren't sure about these modalities. Like, is it okay? Is it safe? Is it Christian?
Yeah.
And for me, those gates that I pass things through, this became kind of simple for me because I know who made them. I
Mhm.
know who made them. Man took them and shaped them and curved them and polished them, and man might take them and use them for purposes that are dark,
Mhm.
but that's what man did with it. I know who made it. Every rock on the earth, every stone, every crystal, man didn't make those.
Right.
God did, right? So it's
Yeah.
part of his creation.
Yeah.
And they have their own frequency. So I think it's all really cool how it interrelates
Mhm.
and how we can bring it into our healing, right? Because God didn't create things on accident. He
Mhm.
created everything for us to to use in his name.
Yeah.
All the glory to him.
Yeah, and I think there's also a really fine line, like, getting into more of the crystal conversation of when people use crystals, like, in an idolatrous way, when they're
Mhm.
when they're leaning on it for power, protection, what like,
Oh,
all
yes.
of that stuff. I think that is when things start to get kinda icky and dark, but at the end of the day, like, God made everything, and
I
yeah.
have really strong thoughts about that. And a couple little stories, if you want me to share a couple little stories on crystals and stones that have helped to build my perspective on
Sure.
them.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um,
Go ahead. Yeah, feel free to share. We still have a few more questions to get through with
okay.
sound. There's
I'll try to
that I
give you,
want to talk about with sound, but
okay.
feel free.
All right. Yes. Right. So one of the two quick stories about using stones. And actually, okay, I'll try to wrap it all up in a package. I'm going to back up. There's a song that's been very instrumental in how I view God's creations. It's by Hillside United. It's called So Will I.
Mhm.
And if you haven't listened to that song, I strongly encourage it. So in the song, there's a couple lines. It says, "The oceans roar your greatness. If the oceans roar your greatness, so will I. If the rocks cry out in silence, so will I. If the stars were made to worship, so will I."
Mhm.
So those few sentences became really instrumental for me because if you think about like the ocean, like God, speaking of sound, spoke everything into existence. And
Mhm.
when he spoke the ocean into existence, he also spoke this, he assigned a sound to it.
Mhm.
The sound is given to like God could have told the rocks, I want you to chirp. And we could have rocks chirping all over the place.
Mhm.
God said, your sound is silence.
Mhm.
And so that song that says they cry out in silence, that's their song of glory to the Lord.
Mhm.
And the ocean, when the ocean roars, that's the ocean's song to the Lord. It's the sound that he assigned
Mhm.
to the ocean, and it's pleasing to his ears. And the planets in that song, if the planet, if God made the stars to worship, and again, like all the planets and how these little frequencies are assigned to that. So I always think about that song and how I use these things and what they mean to me and not using them inappropriately. I used to work with a young lady who was trying to get pregnant, so she would walk around with stones in her pocket, fertility stones.
Oh. Yeah.
She was giving authority to those stones,
Mhm.
right? and another, and I won't go into either story, but just examples. That's one, and the other one is a barista. I was getting coffee in a coffee shop one day, and I had my cross on, and a longer necklace with a stone on it, and he had a giant chain on with a giant stone,
Mhm.
and he kind of looked at me like I was crazy at my cross and my stone because, and he said, "That's an interesting combination."
Huh, yeah.
But it was because he thought I had opposing authorities hanging off of my neck,
Mhm.
right? I didn't. I don't. I've got the authority, and the rock was just something that God made,
Right.
right?
Right.
So
Yeah.
I just find it really interesting, and like to your point, like we just have to be careful and discerning and understand where things come from and how we use them.
Yeah, yeah. And then also knowing when it's time to just get rid of something because
Yes.
I think there are times you can pray over things and like that's important, but I know for a lot of people that have testimonies of coming out of the new age, it's you just have to eliminate,
Right.
like the
Right.
crystals and
Right.
yeah. So it's
Yeah.
just yeah, just having that discernment and really praying and asking God to give you the like his worldview on the spirit realm and
Yeah.
not choosing for ourselves what is good or evil, but continuing to ask him like
Right.
what's
For that guidance.
evil. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. I so agree with that.
Yeah. And I feel like even in this conversation, I just in my head, I'm like, man, I feel like you're like, I don't know if we can make anyone happy because you're going to have people that are
Yeah.
very like, absolutely not. You do not like
Hmm.
rocks are never okay because it's tied to the new age or like sound healing would never be okay because people use it in the new age. And
Hmm.
but then you also have but we're also not saying like, yeah, you can have the new age in Christianity. It's totally cool. Like,
Well, you know what? Let me address that because everything that I do, again, I pause. I'm pumping the brakes and doing all of what I do led me honestly into a much deeper relationship with the Lord.
uh
And in that happening, I have dived into the Bible more deeply. I've done so much more research. And if I cannot find a biblical base for something, I won't use it.
yeah,
So,
smart.
right, like one of the things that they offered in the very early classes of the original raindrop, they offered a pendulum and
Oh,
said you can check for the body's imbalances with a pendulum. And I wouldn't touch it.
mhm,
And and then I thought, well, maybe I'm being too sharp here. And so I did a little research. Well, I did a lot of research actually, trying to find any biblical base for a pendulum. And if there is any, I can't find it. So that's something I'll never touch, never bring in. But stones, like like this one, well, I don't know if I'm pronouncing it correctly, but this lapis lazuli.
oh,
When
yeah,
I started researching stones, it brought me right into the high priests and the breastplates with 12 stones representing the 12 tribes of Jacob. One of those stones is this.
yeah,
That's when I started learning about all that. That's when I started bringing stones into my practice.
mhm, yeah, yeah,
Right.
yeah, so interesting.
Yeah.
So I'm wondering, thinking about I feel like I have so many questions. Um, there are so many questions I feel like we did touch on, but how about okay, thinking back to your actual use of tuning forks. So the sound
Hmm.
itself. Can you share some testimonies like from yourself or even your clients that jump out as just being really transformative?
I have had, I've had a lot. I've had a lot of people, as I mentioned earlier, you know, calling me their healer,
Mhm.
messaging me like, you fixed me, you healed me. I don't have this or that or whatever it is any longer. And I already told you how you know,
Mhm.
I give the glory where it belongs because that's where it belongs.
Yeah.
Um, that being said, I it's an emotional and physical balancing that
Mhm,
happens,
mhm,
and just being in the room as a practitioner and always having these tuning forks, striking them, hearing them, feeling them in my hands. It I I don't have great words to describe just that systemic, comforting feeling that I receive just as the practitioner,
mm,
that I'm able to do that. I feel like I'm constantly getting the goodness of that, the sound and the frequency.
mhm,
But as far as clients go, I've had, like I said, many. I had a gentleman here who had been a couple of years. Unfortunately, he ended up having back surgery. He was heading towards back surgery for a couple of years. So much pain,
mhm,
and he'd been through injections, he'd been to, his general practitioner, he'd been to chiropractors, acupuncturists, he'd done it all,
mhm,
and really just was in so much pain and trying to put off surgery as far as he could. And he was on my massage table in the middle of the service. His head popped up and he goes, "Oh my gosh." And I said, "Are you okay?" He goes, "Yeah, I don't have any pain."
mhm.
And I said, "Oh, that's great." And he goes, "No, you don't understand. I have pain 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, never without pain for 2 years." And he goes, "I don't feel the pain right now." I
Wow.
mean, he was like, "I don't care if this doesn't last more than a minute. The fact that I having a moment that I don't have pain, I mean, that's the body's response to this something that is just organic
Mhm,
in our world. It's we have an affinity with sound,
mhm,
whether it's again the heard or unheard sound that is all coming through frequency.
mhm,
Our body, our organs, our systems have an affinity to it, a desire for it. It leans into it. It's pleasing. Like when you're listening to music, if you don't like, hard rock, or maybe you don't like screamo,
mhm.
and think about how you respond to that. Well, your cells are responding to that sound
Yeah.
in a negative way. It finds it offensive, as opposed to when you turn on that song that you just love, and you lean into it, and you want it. That is a natural happening of the body and the cells, and a desire to um, bring that harmony into the body. It's all a symbiotic. God didn't make all of this for it to exist separately.
Mhm.
It's it's we are to have a symbiotic relationship with all of these things. It's just figuring out what is that relationship and how do I harness it,
Right.
and how do I use it.
Yeah. And I think in the middle of all of that, it's just so important to remember that, like, God is the creator and sound is the creation, and not
Yes,
conflating the two. Because I think what
absolutely.
in the frequency speak world, a lot of people, I'll hear them talking like God is the frequency, or like that's the divine frequency, and it's like his voice is a frequency, but, like,
Right.
he is God. Yeah. And so being able to
I get that.
delineate that
Yeah.
and then have the discernment in walking out, okay, so then what is my relationship to sound, whether it's heard or unheard? Because our ears get
Right.
what, like a tiny, tiny spectrum of sound. There's so much that we
Right.
can't hear, lower or higher, that,
Right.
animals respond to, or because you're talking about the rocks having frequencies, like, yeah, 'cause everything has a frequency, but we can't hear it.
Right.
Everything is
Right, that song, "If
right.
the Rocks Cry Out in Silence,"
Yeah,
I don't
I
know,
like
that's
that.
so profound to me.
Yeah.
He that's the sound, like,
Mhm,
God spoke them into existence. That's exactly how he wants them to be,
mhm,
and I don't think that all those rocks outside are sitting there to necessarily be absent of our attention, right?
mhm,
I just think everything has a potential everything that he created has a potential symbiotic relationship with us
Mhm.
used properly.
Yeah. Yeah,
So,
absolutely. And that reminds me, I don't know the scientific basis for this, but, I've come across people who talk about, like, the big cathedrals, like, over in Europe, and these ginormous stone cathedrals, and
yes,
how, like, the way that they're made and the frequencies that are emitted and the way that
yes,
they're constructed is actually in and of itself healing. And so
very much.
yeah, and the same thing, and it's very similar, they found similar properties. I wish I had a reference for this, but I don't remember honestly, but they found similar properties of, like, big caves that have, like, a smaller entrance. So if you would walk into a cave and it's that same thing where you're just surrounded by s
It's harnessed
yeah.
inside. That's yes,
Mhm.
yes. Actually, and I if you think about the oh, it just escaped me. You know the like the Christian like the choirs like of there's like Christian monks, and
Oh
they'll have this choir, and they're chanting,
oh,
right? But
the
it's
Gregorian chants.
thank you. That's the
Yes.
word.
Yeah.
Gregorian chants.
Yeah, yeah.
It's think about that, like how, and then think about that in one of those huge cathedrals with that
Right.
certain, just made of stone, and that sound is just enveloped in that, and what that does, like you can feel that, you
Mhm.
feel it. And and I mean, I just have like this vision of like our little cells in our body going, yes, like
Mhm.
opening up to it, wanting it, bringing it in. We
Yeah.
need that.
Yeah, well, I describe it as the same feeling of finally getting a glass of cold water when you've been outside in 90-degree humidity for hours. Is that
Yes.
was my experience with sound healing, is like you don't
Oh, I
realize
love that.
how much your body is like, "Oh, yes, thank you." And until you actually have
Quench.
just like that pure tones and your body's able to
Yes.
absorb them because we're surrounded by like, all the electromagnetic stuff of technology and
Mhm, mhm.
electricity, and it's just I think we don't realize how much we're just not out in nature where things are more simple and, like
We're so separated.
yeah, yeah, and so it's just this modern world, but okay, but
Mhm.
scientifically, I remembered my other question I had for you, and then we can kinda wrap up our conversation. Thinking about the science of that in our bodies and how they're made, you've mentioned to me before that there's like different tuning forks and frequencies that align with different body systems.
Mhm.
Can you talk a little bit about what that means and like how our bodies were made for different frequencies?
So I do. I have these different offerings. Like there's that planetary, what I call just the vibrational. Uh, the starting point with this whole series of planetary forks.
Mhm,
So if someone comes to me and I send them the menu of my options, underneath that there's all these body system specific offerings. The brain or the heart or lungs or circulation, liver, adrenals, right? All these different body systems. And when I do those different body systems, so
mhm,
I have that whole planetary set of tuning forks. However, I don't even know how many there are, maybe 10 or 12 in there. The beginning and the end stays the same because those are like very balancing and loving on the body as a
mhm,
whole. But the center series of forks come out.
mhm,
And then, so if you chose brain, the ones for brain or for hormones or for liver, whatever it is, those body system specific forks go in, as well as the same is true for the series of essential oils that I use. The beginning and the end stay the same, excuse me, the same, but those center oils come out and we put in oils that are more specific to that body system that the client chose for that day's session.
mhm,
So the frequency is not um how do I say? It's not like a radio station, like dialing in and you're on a specific station.
Mhm.
Your heart, as we sit here, and my heart, while perhaps on similar frequencies,
Mhm.
are not the same.
Mhm.
They're right. Same with your lungs, my lungs, your digestive system, my digestive system.
Okay.
So even when we're first born, there, it, there's a like an understood um, pocket that the body systems are in,
Mhm.
but not identical because we're both human,
Mhm.
but we are not identical, right? So what changes it? It's trauma at birth,
Mhm.
even trauma in utero,
Mhm.
um, emotional trauma. Your boyfriend broke up with you, your husband divorced you,
Yeah.
there was a car crash, having losing someone to death. All those emotional traumas, or you fell off a roof, you broke your shoulder, or you broke your leg skiing, physical traumas, right? You got in a fight, somebody punched you in the face. All those physical traumas um, change the frequencies throughout our bodies.
Mhm.
So, all of that to say, it's not like tuning into a radio station like, "Oh, the heart is, you know, 222 hertz."
Sure.
It's like a projected or a common frequency. So, more than it being specific in an exact, I like to tell people it's more of an affinity. It has that organ or body system has an affinity
Mhm.
to that frequency. So
Okay.
it's just pleasing, just like I said, if you turn on a station, or a song that you love, and just how you're like, like
Right.
that water that when you're thirsty and it just quenches you.
Mhm.
It's that impact on that organ or body system rather than an exact. I mean, the forks are an exact frequency, but the organs themselves, person to person, can vary wildly. So it's really just a baseline.
Yeah. Okay. No, that does make sense. So it's not that everyone's heart is tuned a certain way, but that system tends to benefit the most from these certain frequencies.
Exactly, exactly. It just has an affinity to that specific frequency, kind of rising. It's kind of like, come on up to this frequency. Let me bring
Mhm.
you here. It wants to be. It
I
want
see.
that higher frequency is, when our frequency as a whole drops, eventually we're sick
Yeah.
or or
Yeah.
death, right? You have to have at least a certain frequency in the body.
Mhm.
So and it just varies whether it's your blood or your skin or an organ or what you're looking at in the body.
Yeah, yeah. This is just so interesting just to learn scientifically from you and then also your own journey and your own discernment path and like the way that you're continuing to move forward in that. And I think when I look at these types of modalities, the first thing I want to know is where's the research, where are the studies, and
Right.
those types of things. But like for me as a speech pathologist, we look at what's like the evidence-based triangle, and like one side is research studies, one side is your clinical expertise, and one side is like client report or patient report.
Mhm.
And
Mhm.
and like the truth of the matter is there's a lot of gaps in the research for stuff like
Yes.
this. It's just not really being studied, but yet
Right.
there's stories upon stories upon stories of the way that just that pure sound healing can benefit so many people, whether it's pain or emotions or
Yeah.
anything. And so I see this as a modality that I think a lot of Christians can benefit from, but again, just need to have a lot of discernment. And I'm sure there's a lot of Christians that are unsure or tentative and like with good reason because they're
Right.
just spend so much.
And we should be.
Yeah. Yeah. You like you.
I mean, like, even like back to like those stones and my research on the stones,
Yeah.
until I started really understanding, like, oh, okay, my gosh, right? But it's
Mhm.
not like looking. like a Ouija board and saying,
Yeah.
"Is there any biblical use for a Ouija
Right.
board?"
Yeah.
Well, A, there's not, but also B, the man made it,
Uh-huh.
and the intention of it is absolutely not of God,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
So, not everything is that easily discerned, but
Mhm.
I like to use the Ouija board example because it's like it never had an intention. People, and on that other side, you can't take a Ouija board and say, I'm just playing with it and I'm praying over it.
Right.
No,
Right.
it truly is made and designed to be, right?
Right. Like, there are some
Of
things that it's just a no. Like, God, like,
right,
it's just a
right,
no. Like, God has his talks about that in the Bible, like, we just don't talk to dead people. We just don't, use drugs to access the spirit realm. It's
right,
not a matter of
right,
needing to redeem it. There's the hard,
right,
fast
right,
no's.
right.
Yeah.
So I do love anyone who asks me the questions and is discerning and has a pure heart and truly wants to honor the Lord and do right by him
Mhm.
and and also is open because I was closed about a lot of things that I actually do until researching. So I do love the opportunity to kind of share my journey and my research and that path that brought me to this really comfortable place of you know making sure that this room, my treatment room, is a place uh of God, for
Yeah.
God. I mean, I pray for my clients before they come.
Mhm.
I give them prayer cards when they leave. I pray over them while they're on my treatment table. You know,
Yeah.
I don't make a secret who I am.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that's good, and I love that part of your testimony too, of how you're describing you used to just be like a hide me in the corner kinda Christian, and now your boldness is very, very
Yeah,
evident, and that's
yeah.
awesome. So, yeah, thank you so much for sharing everything. I think
Thank
this
you.
conversation has been very interesting. Lots of I love all the nerdy stuff too, like with the science piece of it. So I feel
Yeah.
like I learned a lot. It's been a great conversation. Um,
Thanks for letting me share that because the science
yeah.
side is something I don't usually get into too far with people because they're just like, what?
No, I think it's important to know that this didn't come out of nowhere. Like, people didn't just pull this out of the clouds. Like,
Right.
there is basis
Yeah.
for it. So,
Thank you. I appreciate that because that's important to me as well.
yeah, absolutely. All right. Well, thank you so much again for
Thank you,
joining. The
Erica.
conversation's been super fun. And thank you to the listeners for sticking with us during this whole time. I hope this conversation was interesting, informative, and just makes you think. And yeah, so this is the Wallflower Wellness Podcast. We'll catch you next time.